Our lives are shaped by the choices we make. Every moment, from the mundane to the monumental, presents us an opportunity to decide our path. But what influences these choices? Does our mental well-being dictate our decisions, or do our decisions shape our mental health? Well, it's quite simple. You see,
Quick, you have to make a decision right here, right now. There's not much time. Do you take the red pill and wake up tomorrow with unimaginable wealth, power, and success, but never have a meaningful relationship for the rest of your life? Or do you take the blue pill and always have love, connection, and loyalty from those around you, but you struggle financially, work long hours, and can only make enough for a humble living with just the bare minimum? Lock in your choice in 3, 2, 1. So, what'd you pick? Red pill or blue pill? What about green? Now, you're probably wondering, what do you mean by green pill? Most of you probably picked the blue pill because you value relationships over financial wealth. Some of you opted for power over connection. But just because I gave you a binary option between two things, does that necessarily mean that you have to pick one or the other? That's where the green pill comes in. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that means. And if you apply the things that I teach you, you'll see a drastic change in how you make decisions in all realms of your life, your physical and mental health, money moves, career goals, relationships. I'll break down for you what goes into decisions that we make, what not to do when making decisions, and how to do what I call green pilling your way to success. Let's dive into the fascinating world of decision making and understand the hidden forces that influence them. Imagine this. It's Friday night. You decide to wind down for the week with your favorite show. You binge on shows all day Saturday, glance at the clock, it's 3 a.m., and you're surrounded by pizza boxes, Dorito bags, and candy wrappers. Sunday, same thing. Where did the weekend go? You feel uneasy. You promised yourself you'd hit the gym, prep healthy meals, even call your mom, but somehow pizza and pixels won. Fast forward to Monday morning. You drag yourself out of bed, feeling sluggish and guilty, and you promise yourself, this has to change. But why did you prioritize fun over health then? And how can you make better choices tomorrow? Our brains have two distinct systems for making decisions. There's system 1, which is our fast thinking side, which operates automatically, fueled by emotions, intuitions, and biases. Red pill or blue pill? You made a decision with system 1 in action. Pizza over exercise, that's also system 1. It prioritizes immediate pleasure over long-term goals. System 2, on the other hand, is our slow thinking side. It kicks in when complex choices require conscious effort. This logical decision maker weighs pros and cons, but it's lazy and easily overloaded. Studies show that understanding these systems is key. We can train our system 2 to recognize and counteract biases like the present bias that prioritizes immediate gratification. One crucial player in this decision-making drama is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. This is your judgment zone and guides your conscious choices. Things like alcohol or weed turn this part of the brain off. When this part of the brain is active, we're better equipped to weigh options rationally, resist impulsive urges, and make decisions aligned with our long-term goals. However, stress, fatigue, and even lack of sleep can slow this down, making us more susceptible to our system 1 impulsive thinking. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? By using my green pill approach, you'll make way better decisions because you'll know how to optimize system 2 thinking to get you through the toughest choices you'll have to make. But first, let me tell you what not to do when making a decision. Have you ever been in a situation where you were under a lot of pressure and had to make a difficult choice? Like choosing between 2 jobs or between 2 romantic partners, or what version of Pokemon to pick. All very tough choices. First, what you need to avoid is making decisions when overly stressed or fatigued. According to the Yerkes-Dodson law, human mental and physical performance drastically decreases in times of severe boredom or overwhelming stress. When we experience stress, cortisol levels rise. This rise can have a negative effect on the prefrontal cortex that I mentioned earlier, our judgment zone. You can't make new neural connections, so it's harder to adapt to changes. And it hinders neurotransmission, which is what we need to feel emotionally and mentally sound. As a result, you can't weigh options or plan as effectively, and you'll have a harder time focusing and retaining information. A good rule of thumb is if your heart rate is greater than 100 beats per minute, or 80 if you're an athlete, just from stress, do not make a decision if it can wait. Ever find yourself in a situation where you said something you didn't mean to someone that you care about? That's what this is. Studies have shown that when couples argue and one partner's heart rate exceeds 100 beats per minute, that person is gonna be a brick wall. You can't get through to them. Nothing that you say will process. Generally, it's recommended to come back to the situation 20 minutes later, or as long as it takes for you to cool off. But when you do have time to think things through, you need to avoid overly relying on a pros and cons list. Pros and cons lists can be helpful for organizing thoughts, sure, but relying too much on them can work against you. Sometimes, choices aren't just good or bad. There are a lot of gray areas and details that a list might miss. You might end up liking one thing in the pro side more than everything combined in the con side, even if what you like is not the best choice. Which leads me into my next point of what not to do, and that's giving into cognitive biases. Biases are basically shortcuts our brain makes to interpret things, and it uses past experiences and values. Things like the anchoring bias, which gives a lot of weight to initial information. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're in a relationship and it's crummy. So you put a lot of weight on who that person was when you met them. They were so great, they were so romantic and kind, rather than how they're treating you today. That's the anchoring bias. Or confirmation bias, where you look for information that confirms what you want to believe. It's raining outside, so I guess I shouldn't go to the gym. Well, really wanted to go. One thing that we do as humans is recreate past traumas unconsciously. So that's why it's important to recognize our biases and how they impact our decisions. Now, some of you may be wondering, well, what about people who are in high stress situations, dude? Surgeons, cops, rock climbers. See, even though we have cognitive biases, you should also make a note to not ignore your gut feeling completely. Even though our system 1 decision-making system can lead us astray because it's very impulsive, it houses intuition and gut feelings that can sometimes be valuable. You need to be able to recognize impulsive urges from genuine intuition, and you do that by gaining experience and knowledge. But generally, in high stress and time-sensitive situations, it's better to have a plan now than come up with the perfect plan when it's too late. Thinking things through is important, but there may be moments where you don't have the luxury of time. That's why people go through so much training in high-stress fields. You have surgeons with over 10,000 hours of surgery training by the time they finish residency. Now that we know what not to do when making a decision, let me teach you about how to master your mind to always keep yourself at an advantage to make the right move. This is a concept that I call green pilling your way to success. Now, I asked you earlier to decide between the red pill or the blue pill. But just because I offered you 2 options, did that necessarily mean that there wasn't a third? I don't want to hear, it's not fair, you didn't offer me a third option. Listen, life isn't going to spell out all your options or opportunities for you. That's the purpose of this exercise. You need to have an eye for viable alternatives. Not everything is black and white. There's a lot of gray. It doesn't matter whether you're at a grocery store deciding what toast to pick, or if you're thinking about getting your weight loss surgery. You need to make sure that there is a viable alternative. Even if it's not initially there, ensure that you are deciding between 2 things versus 1 thing and nothing. I'll make it make sense. How do you green pill your way to making better decisions? First, reframe your question. Instead of using whether questions, use what questions. There was a study done that asked people, would you like to purchase this entertaining movie for $14.95, or would you prefer to not have an entertaining movie at all? 75% of people ended up buying the movie. For the other group, they asked them, would you like to purchase this entertaining movie for $14.95, or would you prefer to not have the movie and keep the money for a different purchase? Now, only 55% of people bought the movie in this group. That's 20% less than the other. Why? The reason being is that the question then becomes, what other types of entertainment can I get with this money? And this opens up so many other options for you to decide on. And that can have more value. It creates the idea of opportunity cost and opens the mind to perceive alternative options. Now, when considering opportunity costs, rather than weighing the pros and cons, you should consider risk versus benefit, best case scenario versus the worst case scenario. If you can cap the downside to a situation and maximize the upside, then you can safely decide to go with that option. Or, at the very least, if you're stuck between a few options, then go with the one with the least downside to it. For 50-50 situations, that's where experience and intuition comes in, as well as outside perspective from people you trust and are wise to your situation. It's very important to have people who know how to look at your situation from your perspective and your journey. You don't want to go to people who tell you, oh, this is what I went through, this is what you should do. That doesn't always work. It's not always just having a one-track mind. You have different situations and nobody leads the same life. After doing your due diligence, listen to your mind, heart, and gut for a yes. It's what we call a whole body yes. If there is any part of you that says no, then it's likely that decision is not what you want. Remember when I said you can't make decisions when you're emotional or your heart rate is too high? This is how you beat it. You train your prefrontal cortex. This means optimizing stress levels. Get good sleep. Do breathing exercises. Practice mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, we're improving our system 2 thinking to beat the impulsive part of our brain. Mindfulness is a practice of focusing your attention on the present moment without judgment. You become aware of your thoughts, feeling, and body sensations like heartbeat or muscle tension. It's like a workout for your brain. It strengthens the connections within the prefrontal cortex, stabilizes emotions and heart rate, and improves your ability to think. And you can use mindfulness to control your environment as well. Set yourself up for success. Get rid of the junk food in the house, put a gym bag by the door, or create a clean living space, which has been shown to improve mental clarity. Also, and this is very important, be mindful of your identity. When you identify a particular lifestyle that you want to have, you tend to make choices that lean towards that lifestyle. For example, next time you're on a diet and you're craving a pizza, ask yourself, what would a healthy person do? Or, if you smoke, instead of saying, I'm trying to quit, say, I'm not a smoker. It's a very good tip I got from the book, Atomic Habits. Highly recommend it. We are all human. At some point or another, you have failed. No matter how hard you tried, you have failed. Tell me one person you know who is highly successful that made no mistakes or bad judgment calls. I don't care if you're a doctor. I don't care if you're Elon Musk, Napoleon, or Ryan Gosling from the goddamn Notebook. Bad choices are a part of life, but that just adds to your wisdom. You want to build wisdom? Go out and do things. Be important to someone. Be someone you're proud of. And if you make mistakes along the way, acknowledge that it was your mistake and be better for it. The best way to forgive your mistakes is to understand that you did the best you could at the time. But each mistake is a lesson, and that lesson builds on the intuition that will guide you successfully through the toughest choices in life. Trust that intuition. And remember, if it's red pill or blue pill, always look for the green.